Okay, I want to show a couple of helpful things that you can use on your graphing calculator, and I want to use a couple of our assignment problems as the backdrop on how we would do that. So this is from our assignment in section 2.3, and we're talking about a weighted mean or a weighted average, right? To find a weighted mean score, right? These are their kind of like the percent breakdown of these 80 homework. Their score is an 83. It's only 10% of the grade. Okay, so as long as these percentages add up to 100, I'm good. I've got 10 and 25. That's 35. 35 and 15 would be 50, and another 50. So that's going to work out. So what I want to do with my calculator then, be that big, is we're always when we want to communicate numbers to the calculator, get them organized, we use the stat and then edit. Okay, so there's several menus that will use all of these throughout this course, but in the very beginning here, just to get numbers in a calculator, we have to start with stat and edit. A lot of times people forget that. They like hit the table key and there's no data in there. So we want to go to its stat and then edit. Now I have some numbers in here and I want to use different numbers. So I'm going to go all the way up to the top of the list. And this is how I go up to the top so that the L2 is highlighted. And watch what I do here. Don't press delete. Okay, that'll delete the list. You don't want to do that. We just want to clear it. So when I press clear, looks like nothing happened, but I press enter, and now that list is clear. So I'm going to do it again over here. I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to press get L1 so that's highlighted. So you have to get all the way to the top, get out of the list, clear it, and then we enter. Okay, so I'm going to take those numbers that I have here, 83, 79, 97. Okay, the rest of these, 92 and a 93. And then what were those weightings? See if we recall those. I think the first one was 10. Just double check. 10, 25, 15. And then what did we have? 30 and 20? 20 and 30. Okay? So we've done this in this chapter. We just have one variable. So I still only have one variable. These are the values of my scores, right? And then these numbers over here are their weightings. It's how much they're going to weigh. So and I hit my second key and my mode key to quit out of here. Okay? Now I'm going to use the stat button, and now I want to do a calculation. So I press stat. I go over to calculate, and we're going to do the one variable statistics. Okay, so when I press enter, now you may or may not get a menu that looks like this. Okay, if you get a menu that looks like this, then you just enter it just as it is. So first thing I do is tell the calculator where my data is. The numbers that I have are in that L1. So if there's nothing written here, if that's blank, you're going to hit second and the number 1 for L1. Okay, and then I get L1 listed there. Now, the frequency list, if you're just doing one variable stats, you'll want that to be blank or empty. We want that frequency list. We need to tell the calculator, like, yeah, our numbers are here, but this list over here is really important. It's how we're going to calculate them. So I'm going to press enter, and I calculate, and you can see this is how I get my weighted mean, my 88.9. Okay, so pretty helpful little trick on the calculator to calculate that weighted mean score. Okay, so the next problem I want to look at is in our 2.5 section of our homework. We're going to find the quartiles, but I'm also going to make a box plot and do all that kind of stuff. We can do it all at once. Okay, so the first thing I did, just to save time, I went ahead and I already entered these, I don't know, 12 or 13 numbers into my calculator. You can see. So just to review, how do I do that? I hit stat and edit, right? Stat and edit, and you enter the numbers as they're given to you. So to save time, I already did that. Okay, so there's two ways you can get the quartiles, right? If I hit second, quit, get back to this home screen. If we go to stat, calculate, okay, and we just do our one variable stats, now this time I don't have a second list. I don't have a frequency list. So your calculator is going to be set up either one of two ways. It's either going to have no list here, or it's going to want you to put the number 1 there. It kind of depends. So either I think this calculator let me get by if I just leave it blank, but if it forces you to, you put the number 1 there. For those of you that don't have a calculator that gives you this menu option, I'm going to press enter and calculate. I'll show you what your calculator probably does. probably looks something like this. One variable stats, L1. So what you're going to do for the previous grouped data problem, you're going to hit the comma and then hit second and L2 for list 2. We don't want to do that right now. I'm not doing group data, but if you had to do group data like in that previous example, that's how you do that. Okay? So I press enter, I get my mean, I get my sample standard deviation, I get my population standard deviation, okay? And for the questions that ask you for variance, all you're doing is taking this standard deviation number. Remember, variance is standard deviation squared. So you just square this number. It depends if they want the population variance or the sample variance. Generally, we're dealing in the economy of sample statistics. So usually it's this guy here, this SX, that we're looking for, sample standard deviation. This is the Greek letter for S, sigma, for the population parameter standard deviation. Now, if I start to scroll down, this is what people don't realize. All my 5-number summary is right here. These are the 5 numbers that make up a box plot. This is your min, this is your Q1, that's your quartile, median, Q3. So what was this question asking for? It's asking for the quartiles. I have them all there. Q2 is the median. Okay. Another neat way to do that is to hit second, okay, and this y equals button. If you notice in blue up above the y equals button is stat plot, statistical plot. So I have data that I want to make a graph of, so I need the stat plot. I don't want to hit y equals. I want second and y equals. And that brings me to my stat plot menu. So more than likely these are all turned off on your calculator. I'm going to go ahead and press enter on plot 1 just to go into the menu and show you what is happening in there. It gives me an option to make a scatter plot if I had 2 variable data. This is really like a time series where they would connect the dots on a scatter plot. This is your histogram. This is the one we want, the box plot. In particular, I want the modified box plot. Okay? Because if a question asks me if there are any outliers, this will plot the outliers for me separately, and I won't miss them. I'll be able to find them very easily. Even if I don't use the 1.5 IQR rule, it'll flag them for me. This box plot here won't do that. It'll still make a box plot, but if there's an outlier, it won't plot it separately. I like to do the modified box plot so it plots separately. So I have modified box plot highlighted. If it's not highlighted, you have to arrow down to this menu, arrow over to it, and press enter so it's selected. Oops, that's not what I want. I want this one. Enter. Okay, make sure this is the right list. Remember to get your list names. It's second and 1 or second and 2. They're all in blue here. Don't type that in by hand. Okay, and now the shortcut. I've told the calculator. So if I just hit my graph key now, I might not see the plot that I want. Okay, the shortcut here, if you want to write this down and remember it, is to tell the calculator to look at your plot and make the graph window according to that. So you just hit zoom and 9. Zoom 9 zooms to your data. So you can see I get a nice symmetric box plot here, but I can see it's skewed to the left. There's an outlier, there's a really low outlier here to the left. So if they ask me if there's an outlier, I can tell them. All right, and now the other thing that they ask for a lot of times is the quartiles, right? So they're all listed here. If I hit trace right now, it's going to take me into my box plot. Okay, so here's the min. It's 15. It's that 5-number summary that we just had. Okay, so 15 is the min. Then we jump over to this tail. Here's our Q1. 35 is the Q1. Here's our median, or our Q2. That's 41. Here's our Q3 of 46. And here's our max. So you can do either one. You can do your, one variable stats, or you can just make the box plot. You'll get the same numbers either way. Okay, here they are again. So it's one variable stats, or make a box plot and you'll have everything that you need.